Thanks, Gregor. For Paul, please. Paul, how will you approach free agency this year, and would returning to the Jets be an option you consider like you did after 2018?
Yeah, and I think for me, whatever happens, I'll probably just take my time away with it. I think it's now that I'm older. I think options are probably more limited, but you kind of have an idea of what's best for me, what's best for my family, and then I think with the expansion draft and everything that's going on, I'm pretty sure teams are going to be busy trying to figure that stuff out. So, when it comes to dealing with my agent and my family and my old man, I think we kind of all sit there together and kind of figure out, be patient. We'll be patient about it, and there's no rush. And kind of have an idea of, what places you want to play at, but, you want to be what's a good fit for you, and you want to go somewhere where you're wanted to. So, like I said, I've had nothing but good things to say here. And, I know the future has always been bright, and it continues to be bright, and there's always going to be a chance here. And I think that's a really important piece to picking the team you want to play at.
We'll go next to Ted Wyman from the Winnipeg Sun. Go ahead, Ted.
Well, Paul, you've been in the league an awfully long time. How challenging was this year, this season, everything that was going on around your team in the league and the world compared to the other seasons that you've played?
Yeah, I think physically it was tough. I think for all teams, for all players, I think you're used to different things. You're not. A lot of games in a short amount of days, but you knew that was going to happen. I think emotionally, it was different because you're playing, these mini game series where you're playing the same team 2 or 3 times, and then come playoff time, you're playing them again. So you're playing a lot of those teams a lot of times, and then I think mentally it was very taxing, frustrating at times because there's light at the end of the tunnel one day, and then all of a sudden everything gets shut down again the next day. And I think it's mind-boggling, and it's crazy that when we started the year here, it was Christmas time and the pandemic was an all-time high, and that was understandable because there's no sun, no one was outside, the weather was freezing, everything was kind of shut down. And I remember when my wife and I came here, and we're trying to just get wrapping paper for the kids for Christmas, and that was tough to get. And then you fast forward 6 months, it's 85 degrees outside, and people are afraid to go outside, and people, I don't know. You think you move forward, but sometimes you take a couple steps backwards, but then you see other provinces start opening up. You see the states open up full capacity, and I think that's where it gets like mentally challenging a little bit, And so I think it's unfortunate. It sucks, and you want everyone to stay healthy, but at the same time, you want people to move forward, and you want people to get back to living their lives, to enjoying themselves, to seeing friends, to seeing family, and a lot of people aren't doing that, and I think that takes a big kind of mental toll on them and on society itself. And I think that's unfortunate. So for me, I'm excited to go back home and have my kids see their friends, have my kids see their family. And it's been too long, and I think you miss them. And I think a lot of people miss all those close relationships that they have with normal people that you might take for granted.
We'll go next to Sarah Lesky from TSN. Go ahead, Sarah.
Thanks, Gregor. This question's for Paul. Paul, you had said that, perhaps one day you'd tell us what you were dealing with for the first couple of the games of the postseason. Can you tell us or give us an idea now of what it was?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Like I said, it's just something that kind of stemmed up from probably like before that Edmonton series, and then kind of just, sometimes you have something that happens and it like lingers on, and then it kind of, you compensate for an injury, and then all of a sudden parts of your other body get affected by it, and that's kind of what happened. And sometimes, you don't realize at the time it's happening, and then all of a sudden it just comes on quick, and then after you get a treat and you get to figure out, you realize that's where it came from. So it's nice knowing where the kind of the injury stemmed from and what's kind of started it, and you can clear that up and not have to worry about kind of a long-term injury. And that was kind of something small that, could get fixed over a course of a couple of days or a couple of weeks.
We'll go next to Mike McIntyre from the Winnipeg Free Press. Go ahead, Mike.
Thanks, Gregor. Morning, guys. This one's for Neal. Neal, you're obviously RFA this summer and have arbitration rights. Do you approach the offseason any differently, being in a position such as this and coming off such a strong personal season?
Yeah, I mean, to be completely honest, I haven't thought a whole lot about it. Still kind of decompressing from the season and decompressing from that last series there. And I'm sure over the next few days, my agent and I will talk really for the first time about a new deal. But for the most part, I'll let him take care of that.
We'll go next to Jason Bell from the Free Press. Go ahead, Jason.
Thanks, Gregor. This one is well for Neal. Neal, you came in and joined this group last year and very, very quickly became what I think a lot of people would consider is a big part of that core. What do you like about this core when you look around the league? Do you think it stacks up? And do you believe that one of the priorities should be to make sure that core group is together going towards the fall?
I really like the motivation of this core. You look at our best players and I think they're the hardest working guys on the team. They're the first guys of the rink, the first ones on the ice and the last ones off the ice kind of thing. So that motivation alone, along with the skill and the talent that we have as a core, I think is really exciting for the future.
We'll go next to Murat Atesh from The Athletic. Go ahead, Murat.
Thanks, Gregor. This one is for Paul. With the, I guess, how do I say this? You've mentioned how emotional of a year that it was. You ran the 1,000 game celebration into, I think it was the last game you left, last game of the season you left the ice, came back. You had injury issues throughout the playoffs. It seems like as far as the emotions that could exist in a season, there were some high highs and low lows. And I'm wondering if you could share maybe an example of what the highest high and lowest low may have been during the fight.
Yeah, usually I don't know. Usually you have injuries like during the season, or you're dealing with stuff. And I think before the season, I knew I'd almost have to play every game to hit that 1,000 game mark. You don't really think about it, and then sometimes someone brings it up, and obviously it takes a lot of luck to kind of to be healthy all year. And like you said, it's like I hit that 1,000th game, which was kind of like a relief because you just didn't know. I think my wife and kids are more excited because they're more worried, that they might get me sick or they might be close contact, and all of a sudden I'd have to sit out. So stuff like that was kind of uncontrollable. And then, then you go to game 56 thinking, both teams are just go out there and play to win, but at the same time, play smart because playoffs coming around. And then I take that first shift, I get kind of cross check right in that area. So you go from, the ultimate high to, wow, that was like a stinger that I've never felt before. And then playoffs the same way, right? You go, probably shouldn't have beat Edmonton 4-0 and probably shouldn't have lost to Montreal, get swept 4-0. So that was, there goes the highs, there goes the lows. You win one series in overtime and you lose another series in overtime. And then same thing was weird playing, you play back-to-back games against Edmonton there, games 3 and 4. Basically it's 3 games in 2 days. And then you play back-to-back games against Montreal. But in between there, you have 10 days or 11 days of waiting and not playing. So it's stuff that's, you can't make it up. And then, like you said, it was very unforeseen and, probably won't happen again. And, we weren't complaining in the first round and we're not complaining in the second round. So that's just the way it is.
We'll go next to Paul Friesen from the Winnipeg Sun. Go ahead, Paul.
One more for Paul. You had those insightful comments near the end of the losing streak, Paul, about maybe your team had been cheating the game and getting away with it. Only a guy with your time in the league obviously would be able to probably say that and see that. How about what was missing in the second round series? I know you think it was probably closer than a 4-game sweep, but was there something missing, and have you put your finger on what it was?
Scheif missing obviously hurt us because, Scheif, Wheels, and Casey, are playing so good. I mean, everyone knows how good their chemistry is, and it seemed the last 3 or 4 games of the season and then going to playoffs, that they're playing as, better than ever. So all of a sudden, game one, was kind of no one knew what to expect, and Montreal was a better team, and the guys, I think, the timing was off, a little rusty, and that was to be expected. But then after that, like you said, you lose Scheif, and all of a sudden, you start tinkering with the lineup and you're trying to find different things. And as a coach, it's tough because you don't want one line to be stacked and all of a sudden the other 3 lines not playing as good. You want to find that perfect balance where everyone kind of different guys complement each other, and you can get, you know, the best of each other, because when you're playing a team like Montreal that has 4 good lines, that has a good goaltending, 3 good pairings, you can't rely on one line. You got to rely on 4 lines. So obviously, you know, I think that's a tough one to deal with. And then, yeah, I mean, I think, you know, probably special teams is kind of the difference. Like you said, I think Edmonton special teams, you know, were pretty good. And in Montreal, I think we let up, you know, 3 short, you know, we knew they were good shorthanded, but they scored 3 shorthanded goals. You know, so the winning one in game 2, and then, you know, I turn that one over in game 3, and then all of a sudden that kind of opens the game up a little bit, you know, makes it a 2-goal lead. You know, and then, you know, when we had our chance to the power play, you know, we didn't convert, especially I think game 4, we had 1 power play and we had a bunch of good looks, couple, you know, hit a post, hit a knob, and that didn't go in. And then, you know, they get a power play and scored to take the lead. And you can like look back, but like I said, playoff series, I feel like throughout the season, the teams are so evenly matched. The goalies are so matched. The top players kind of cancel each other out. The special teams doesn't make such a big difference. And, you know, that might have been one of the differences in the series as well.
Just a couple more for the guys. We'll go next to Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Sean.
Hey, this is for Paul. Paul, one of the themes that keeps popping up here is a real strong belief in this team's core from, you know, within the dressing room. And I think, you know, in the hockey world generally, you've got an interesting perspective because you were with this team, and at certain times of the high, you saw them from the outside and you're back on the inside. From your perspective, what is the look at this team and its core and the belief that it can succeed, and how that's perceived both inside the dressing room and compared to your time outside of the dressing room when you were in Vegas?
Yeah, I mean, you know, like you said, the belief is strong. I think, you know, if you break down a team, you're looking at, you know, coaching, offense, defense, goaltending, right? And if you find a team that has world class in all 4, they're obviously going to be head and shoulders above everyone. But I don't think there's anyone like that. So I think when you have, you know, world-class goaltender, you can obviously win any series. You can win any game. You know, that's one thing. You know, I think when you have, you know, world-class offensive players, which they do here, I think then all of a sudden, you know, you have some good defensemen and you can play a better defensive team game. Because obviously you're going to sacrifice one or the other, right? You're either going to, you know, probably invest more up front or invest more on the back end, or, you know, you find the happy medium. I think every team's kind of like that. And I think when you saw the way we could play defensively, you know, when you do play a certain system, when you do understand the game plan, you realize, you know, playoff time, you can beat anybody. And I think sometimes the regular season got away from it because, like I said, you're playing the same teams all the time. I think it's different sometimes when you're playing in front, you know, empty buildings. I think the energy and the spark, you know, you got to create yourself, and sometimes it's not there on a given night. So players tend to cheat a little bit, or other teams tend to cheat a little bit, and it's just regular season. But then when the playoffs, when all the guys kind of stick to the game plan, you realize that they want to win. You know, and that's the most important thing. And when you see that, guys start sacrificing their game a little bit, maybe offensively to play a better team, you know, D game, or you have guys that sacrifice a little bit, you know, on one end of the spectrum just to help out a little bit at the other end to help the team win. And you saw that in this group, and I think that's really important for the future and for building a winning team.
We'll go back to Sean Reynolds for a follow-up. Go ahead, Sean.
So Paul, that defensive game that you're talking about that gave you the success when you had the success this year, especially in that Edmonton series, do you feel like you guys fell out of that in the second round, or do you feel like you were forced out of it?
I think at times we fell out of it a little bit, and then when you're down a goal, some are understandable, right? So you're going to give up some chances. You're going to give up, you know, and that's why you trust your goalie to make some big saves, and you know, Bucky did that all year in all playoffs. And then, you know, sometimes those were created by ourselves, where I don't know if it's because maybe when you played Edmonton, you were really focused on, you know, those 2 top dogs that can score at any time, right? So you really play as collective 5, and then when we play Montreal, where there's not one guy, but there's just, you know, 4 good lines, you tend to get away from that game a little bit, but you realize that no matter who you're playing, that's what made us successful. That's a big learning step. Hopefully, that a lot of guys, you know, will look at. And you know, when you win, you don't really think about it. When you lose, you know, you'd be annoyed or pissed off about it, but there's always something you can learn about it. And I think that's that's a good learning lesson, for the squad here was, that good team defensive game works against anybody. So it doesn't just work against one player. And it's not about shutting down one player. It's just about limiting their chances and also giving yourself a better chance to win. And it might take, like you saw, 60 minutes, or it might happen early in the game. It doesn't matter. But, Montreal seemed to do a good job like that, where they didn't give up a lot off the rush. They didn't give up. They didn't kind of play that run and gun game, and all of a sudden it frustrated us a little bit. Then we had to open up because we're down a goal or two, and that's when they got chances. And they played a good system game, good team game, and it paid off for them. And that's something that we can learn from.
And final question to Ted Wyman from the Sun. Go ahead, Ted.
Hey, Neil, would you say coming to Winnipeg has been good for your growth as an NHL player? And what do you like about the role that you've played here for the last years?
Sorry, I missed the first half of that question.
It's coming good for your growth as a player.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, I think coming over from New York, I got a ton of opportunity right away, and having that trust in the coaching staff really gave me a lot of confidence to develop and grow as a player. And it's amazing what a little boost of confidence will do for you. And I think you mentioned the core there at the end too. Like I like this core, and there's no core like I'd rather be a part of and rather play with.
Thanks very much, guys.